Hello and welcome to Snide's Return, a tabletop roleplay podcast. My guests today are talented at telling tall, twisting, tight, tension-building, traveling tales at the table, while also discussing dice, Discord, the world of darkness, and D&D with some of the biggest names in the industry. With so much going on, it's time to pack up our storyteller toolkit and get on the road for some tabletop journeys. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome interviewers, podcasters, and content creators, Josh, Glen, and Lewanika of Tabletop Journeys. Thank you so much for joining me today.
That is probably the greatest introduction we have ever received.
Right? Can we like send you stuff and have you write our copy for us for ads?
That was brilliant.
I mean, is that a pay gig? Is there pay involved?
No.
Okay.
No, there's no.
There's community love. Okay.
Yeah.
And occasional dice throwing sessions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Seriously, though, thank you very much for having us on, Adam. We're really, really excited to be here today. Thank you so much for taking some time.
Yeah.
No, not at all. So before I go into some of the things I alluded to there in the introduction, why don't we use one of your mechanics? I'd like each of you to roll initiative to answer the first question, which will be, how did you get into TTRPGs? Please roll initiative.
Oh, I love it.
All right.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's a 3 for me, so.
I'm pulling 5 again. I'm not rolling well today.
Seems like Glen, you're top of the order. So, Glen, how did you get into tabletop role-playing games, please?
So I am a second-generation role player. I've recently decided to start calling myself. But yeah, I'm Glen, 1/3 of the wonderful team we have over at Tabletop Journeys. Blessed to work with my co-hosts Lewanika and Josh. I don't know how you do it as a one-man show for all of the things that you do, Adam. I don't know if I could do this without a team. But I got into tabletop role-playing because my dad, who was in the Navy and a submariner, we had a pre-show discussion about the correct pronunciation of that word, wound up playing D&D with some of his shipmates on deployment. And he came home and did what any young 20-something, no, I guess he was probably 30-something because I was like 8 and a half, young military man should do at the time. He went home, bought the basic D&D set in a box, the original one, came home and played it with his wife and kids and neighbor. So my dad was my first GM running the straight up D&D basic box when I was like 8. That was like 42 years ago. We won't talk about the math for what that means. And that's how I got started. And I played a lot with friends at that point because, Dad was out a lot. So he only ran a couple of them. But I played an elf named Silverleaf, because I think that was actually a pre-made character in the box. But from there, I branched out as I got a little bit older. I met Lewanika in Scouts when I was 11 and he was 12, I think.
Yep.
And we started playing D&D with other Scouts on campouts. And then we picked up some other games like Palladium's Recon and Paranoia, and the rest, as they say, is kind of history. I took a break for a little while raising kids and got busy enough that I only played a couple of Rifts games here and there for about 20 years. But then last 5-6 years, really been diving back in, started the podcast with these two gentlemen, and now here we are.
All right. Well, we'll get to the podcast and one of the other two gentlemen in a little while. No offense, Josh, but we'll get to you, I promise. Lewanika, you've basically been given some advantage there from Glen if we're going to throw out some of these great terms. How did you get into tabletop role-playing games, including your sort of time in Scouts?
Well, tabletop role-playing started with Scouts for me. Just a few years before I met Glen, I was living outside of Massachusetts, went to a camp for my tenderfoot initiation back when we did such things. And one of the older boys was playing D&D, invited all of us tenderfoots to play. And so we played. I played a character.
Tenderfeet.
I don't believe we actually played the whole session. We played a little bit, and I was very intrigued. I liked what I saw, but I had never seen it again for several years. Fast forward, just before I met Glen in the Boy Scout camp, I would say like by weeks or days before I met Glen, and we were playing at Boy Scout meetings, campouts. Cochegan Rock, I believe, is where we first played. My next door neighbor, he and a friend played. invited me to play. I made a character. I was a fighter. I died in the first adventure, but the story just captured me. My character was it was a total TPK. Whole party was done in. I was the last character standing, and the DM described the kill exceptionally well. And as a matter of fact, he said, "As you're fading to black, you see the form of the person who shot you with an arrow standing over your body, and as you blink and your vision narrows, you recognize it is your own brother."
Dun, dun,
And that was it. End of character. Took my character sheet and was done. Never had that character again. Couple days later, made a new character. I was allowed to play the same character, somehow magically revived. I'm like, I'm never playing a fighter again. I'm gonna play a ranger because that's what killed me, and I'm gonna get him. And just started playing. Met Glen, started playing other characters. Loved the game. Met another good friend of mine who was my neighbor across the street. I was a military brat as well, so everybody in my circle was largely military brats. We lived in base housing or off base housing, but it was all Navy housing, and it was just an amazing experience. It's how we,
Yeah, friend of the show, Marty, is who lived across the street from him.
yeah, absolutely, and that's how we formed friendships. It was Boy Scouts and role playing games,
Wow.
because nobody ever went to a school long enough in our community to form lasting friendships there. But somehow or another, the three of us managed to stay, even though Glenn went away for a couple of years and came back. Um, we managed to stay in the same place largely because we were fortunate. I had my stepfather was willing to maneuver where he was stationed to keep me in the same high school. Marty's father did the same thing for him. Uh, when Glenn came back, your dad was retiring around that time, if I or
Yeah, he started out stationed at the sub school, so I was just here. But I did go to stay with my mom for a few years. But he retired out here too, so yeah.
yeah. And so we just and then around us kids from our scout troop, friends from just outside the community. We all just started playing together regularly. Like Glenn said, we started rolling through systems as we grew in our tabletop role playing. Glenn mentioned the various Palladium games. We played GURPS. He mentioned Paranoia. We played the Marvel superheroes role playing game for a bit. I know Marty and I took a try at the DC game at the time. That was garbage. Um, and we even took a hand at trying to build our own GI Joe based D6 system. Also garbage. Like we made our own thing. It was not that good. But every now and then I come across the notes from those old days, and they're kind of fun to kind of look at because we were always thinking plots, stories, adventures, campaigns, and we just played and played and played until forever, pretty much. I, like Glenn, took a small break. My break was a little bit smaller when after college, I had moved back to Connecticut. Well, after college, moved back to Connecticut for a while, and then decided I need to connect with my old crew. So role playing games it was, and the rest is history.
As they say. As they say.
To be
As they
fair,
say.
right, which I struggled with getting out earlier. To be fair, part of what helped us roll through so many sessions is we got really lucky in that back then when we were late teens into our early 20s, one of the members of our game circle worked at the Citadel local game store and had 24-hour access to it, and we had permission from the owner, so we could play all-night games in the basement around these big tables, and we were there all the time. It was fantastic.
Yeah, we like roll in, go to work, roll back over. It was pretty constant. There were days that I saw the Citadel.
Though convincing the pizza delivery guy to come to the dark doorway in the back of the building in the middle of the night was tough.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, there were days I saw the game store more frequently than I saw my own apartment.
That's got role playing game written all over it. Pizza deliveries at the dark doorway.
Yeah.
I mean, early avenues of content creation, sort of the seeds were sown, as it were.
Yeah.
Going off of something you mentioned, Lewanika, last person standing, Josh, not
Yes.
last in quality, just the one sort of propping broad shoulders, should we say, propping everybody up.
Right.
How did you get into tabletop role playing games?
Boy, so my tale is a little bit less less involved than they are. Where I learned role playing was in a very small town in northern New Hampshire. I'd moved from the Boston area when I was about 10 years old to the middle of nowhere, and had very few friends and everything like that. But one friend that I did have, man, when we were probably about 10 or 11 years old, had got the old Warhammer fantasy RPG. The one with the dwarf dual wielding axes with the bright orange mohawk and everything. Like, I have like this image of that book just
I can picture it.
emblazoned in my brain. Yeah, totally, yeah. And that was my first system, and we were kind of like you said, Lewanika. I mean, it was we were awful at it. We were just flat out awful at it. It was, but we had so much fun. We didn't have any idea what the heck we were doing, but it was just so much fun. And then kind of fast forward to high school, when I would at lunchtime in the gym, in the cafeteria there, for those precious 30 minutes while you're choking down bad pizza and chicken nuggets, playing Spelljammer with some friends, and then I kind of took a break from there too. I for a couple of years there until I got to college, and then kind of started getting into some of the role playing games. Started playing some Shadowrun and some stuff like that, and then ultimately started doing live action role playing game, and really kind of fell in love with LARPing, particularly in the old World of Darkness, second and third edition Vampire and everything like that. And that's where I met Lewanika. Was at we never remember which game it was. It was either that we met at the game that I was running or the game he was running. Was it Haven?
No, it was Haven.
So I always thought that we met at your game, probably the following week, because again, that's how we did it back in the 90s, is that we would LARP every single weekend. Games would start at 5:00 in the afternoon on Saturday and go until 6:00 in the morning on Sunday, and then we'd go to Denny's. But yeah, we met LARPing, and then a few years later I met Glen, and kind of the rest was history. I mean, we've done a bunch of role playing.
Because Lewanika brought me up to learn LARPing, and it was great.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's kind of how and that was mumbledy years ago, and and since then we've kind of all stayed in contact. And then, gosh, launched this project 2 years ago or so. But I mean, the thing that's funny is that we started a podcast because we love doing this, right? We love talking about gamecraft and about books and about role playing in general and all these things. And for one, it's given us this amazing opportunity to talk with other amazing creators like yourself and everything like that. But I mean, these were conversations that Lewanika and I were having on the couches of horrified onlookers at dinner parties for the better part of 15 years anyway, who were just like, why are they talking about the mechanics of sneak attack again? Get off of my couch, you losers, and go. But it was so it really was an outlet for that more than anything else, because we wanted to keep having the conversations. This was very much a pandemic born podcast. So yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, that sort of nicely dovetails into my next or follow-on question. Want to roll a d20 again to see who gets the first pick of the next. The next
you
question.
are a harsh mistress, Adam. Yeah, that's a 10 for me. Perfectly mediocre.
11.
Big money, no whammies. 8.
Ooh. First up.
So, Lewanika, having sort of come out there on top of the initiative order there for this question, so you've sort of all combined and gelled and sort of come together to form this trinity, this unity that the clear affection between you as friends is evident, and I'm sure those listening can hear it. Before I sort of move on, I want to understand what was the spark that really got you to start the podcast. I realize you've been talking about mechanics, but what was that moment, that ignition, that spark where you were just like, now we're doing a podcast?
Yeah. So for a long time, Josh and I had talked about doing a political podcast. Something that those who know us well know that Josh and I specifically, are very politically minded. We have been and remain somewhat active in our political beliefs, certainly from a voting standpoint, and following the news and things like that. So
if they weren't on your couch having a D&D conversation, then you wanted to throw them out. It was a political conversation instead, and you wanted to throw them out. So.
Yeah, pretty much. So but at the same time, our politics were never 100% in sync, but our love and our friendship and our respect for each other's ideas, and more importantly, our conversational methodology, um, was something that we thought was very impressive. So at the time, we were both listening to a lot of political um, radio talk shows and things like
Mm.
that, and we were like, "Oh, we could do that. We could do this thing." We had this whole idea. It was originally called "The Truth in Black and White." Was the title that we had joked around. We should start that someday, and obviously 2016 happened for those of us who live in the States, and it really altered our thoughts. I stopped actively paying attention to the news because I was so frustrated with the politics of our country specifically. And it was less about the politics because I don't honestly think individual politics changed. I think it was the discourse between persons that changed and the way people spoke that changed. And I am not on board with that. Whether I agree with somebody or disagree with somebody, I don't believe in the conversational vilification that was going on
Mm.
as of that was very pronounced. Fast forward to 2020, I'm temporarily out of work. I'm at home, um, basically uh, trying to figure out what to do, wanting to be more creative. I had just started doing a live stream with another friend because gaming digitally was becoming a thing, and it
Mm.
was my only way. I had because I had to stop one of my live games. A regular convention I went to had stopped, and I was feeling this lack of creativeness. Even when I started going back to work part time, my job didn't include any creativity. Um, I had started doing a little freelance work, and I was really just enamored with the creative process. It was really fulfilling a need in my life. Josh and I are talking about that, and he said we should really do the podcast. And he said, but I don't think we should do politics anymore. I'm like, I don't want to do politics anymore. The fun was
Wasn't any
taken out
fun.
of that.
Yeah.
Like, there's
Mm.
no way to steer a conversation where people could have a reasonable conversation in that way. And then he said, why don't we do one on D&D? And I'm like, let's do it. And it was almost immediate. Like, we had that conversation. I don't remember the exact day. I think it was just a few days ago that was the anniversary of that
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
Um, Josh went out, secured a bunch of IDs. Like, took us about a week to come up with a name.
Yeah.
And then he went out and secured every kind, like email addresses, Twitter accounts, secured. We, we have platforms that we have not begun to use yet that was
Right.
secured with his name because we're like, eventually we're going to have to be everywhere. Let's just be prepared. So, like,
Yeah.
we went out
Yeah.
and he did that. We started figuring out what we're going to do. We started putting together business tools. Asana board is one of the ones we use to organize thoughts and ideas.
Mm.
And we started discussing formats and how we wanted to do things. There were podcasts that we listened to, specifically the RPG Academy, who has a wonderful format that we absolutely love
Mm.
and got a lot from. I started hardcore listening to a lot of YouTube content creators
Yeah.
to kind of get a feeling for how can we do this thing that we want to do, but fill a niche that we don't necessarily see everywhere else
In
because
a really crowded space. Yeah. Yeah.
it's an exceptionally crowded space, and there's no one thing that we necessarily do that other people don't do, but the idea for us is we have to be unique in our own way. So we had to put our mind to it, and our creative and storytelling minds is what led to kind of the way we kind of bridge that gap, where we talk about the mechanics, but we talk about the mechanics in service to the story.
Mm.
Um, and the best example of that is just how we talk about when we do rankings. We are one of the only ranking system that includes flavor in our discussion of how to rank things. Um, and so much so that it drastically changes the way we rank things to other places. That doesn't invalidate other places. They have
Mm.
a different mechanism for ranking. Um, but it is unique to why something could be ranked so low on some shows and still be so fun on to play because
Yeah.
it's that flavor. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with having something that's not mechanically strong that is amazingly fun to play. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's how you get your, if that's how you put milk in your cereal, grab a spoon, kid, because it's going to be tasty.
Nice.
How the hell did you get there from the question?
I don't know. I was thinking of Fruit Loops. I mean, really, that's what it was.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
I'm all over that.
Oh.
I might go and get a bowl and just tuck into this content. It's a feast for the mind, the ears, and the soul, I guess. Josh,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Lewanika mentioned about sort of starting the podcast and having to be everywhere, which kind of lends the natural question of where can we find you, either as individuals or as a collective? Where can we find you and support your content?
Oh, so this works out perfectly because I'm normally the guy that gets to answer this question whenever it's asked on other podcasts. So this worked out perfectly. So
yeah, if you'd have picked me, I'd have punted.
So the our website is www.ttjourneys.com. But much like your show, you should be able to find our content on wherever you listen to podcasts. We do our best to go ahead and make sure that we're out there everywhere. So on your iTunes, on Amazon, on Pandora, on all the podcast aggregators, wherever you listen to podcasts, hopefully you can go ahead and find us. And if you can't find us wherever you listen to podcasts, the best way to reach us is through Twitter. We are at TT Journeys. You can email us at podcast@ttjourneys.com. And that's pretty much the best way to go ahead and reach us. And if you follow us on Twitter at TT Journeys, you will frequently see Lewanika and I. We have our own personal Twitter accounts also that we talk to each other through the TT Journeys account fairly frequently. So that's
Nice.
Oh, so y'all fill up that channel as well?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, totally. Oh, yeah. Totally. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, I talk to myself all the time. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. You know.
Most often in the mirror in the middle of the night, very quietly. Oh no, that's
so,
just
yeah. It was like so. I had done this goofy paladin subclass based on on rickrolling people, and I was giving myself crap from the TT Journeys account because I was so shocked that I'd actually done it. It was a thing. I was it's been a long week. What can I say?
it's all right. We can
to the paladin of Rick Carroll, as it were. I will say this: my one of my second oldest son thinks it's amazing. Like he was in stitches when I told him extolled the virtues of the tenets of this paladin subclass. Because
it's never going to give you up.
Tell us, Josh. Say it again for the audience.
Oh, sure. So I mean, the tenets, of course, of the paladin of the Order of Rickroll is that they will never give you up. They will never let you down. They will never run around and hurt you. Yeah, I mean, it's
natural.
Of course not. Why would they do such a thing? It's a, and all the powers are based on lyrics from the song. Like it's a lot of fun. I have no idea if it's mechanically sound or not, but it's really fun. So that's for what it's worth.
Better time, that would have been the perfect April Fool's release.
Oh yeah. Had I thought about that? Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna run around. Sorry,
we got a duet going on.
That's all right. We just rickrolled your audience there, Adam. There you go.
Well, if the audience want to find this paladin, we will shift the question on since you've provided some. So, Glen, where might we find this paladin of the Order of Rickroll?
I believe Josh posted that on DM's Guild.
It's on DM's Guild, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you post it? Is it
for Tabletop Journeys
under Tabletop Journeys?
Yep. So that is one way that myself and others in the community can support you by picking up your content on the DM's Guild, along with that fantastic paladin who probably shimmies as he walks and all those sort of good things.
Yeah.
I mean, what a guy.
Make sure you check out Traveler's Guide to the Multiverse on DM's Guild. That was our first full-length book, and it came out pretty good for our first effort.
Yeah.
Well, links to your DM's Guild stuff will be along with your social media links, which will be down in the description. But maybe someone doesn't want to just support you by buying one supplement. How can they continually support you, or any projects you have coming up? Maybe, Glen.
Oh, that would be obviously the greatest way to support the show is to listen to it, subscribe, share, rate, review. That's our biggest ask. If on your podcast platform, whatever one you listen to, if they have a rate and review, give us a rating, give us a review even better. because a lot of times you get the star rating, but there's no words, and it's lovely. We love it. It's such a charge to everything we do just to get even if it's not completely positive, just to get feedback. But positive reviews, obviously, they make us feel shinier. But if you would like to support the show financially, you can also go to our Patreon and either make a one-time donation or join us at any number of tiers, which provide you with all kinds of benefits, from early access to the show, opportunities to bid into the games that we run for our Patreons, some of which are aired on the channel. And our highest tier at the moment gets free copies of our publications as they come out from DM's Guild. Is that one Patreon/TT Journeys?
It is
Help me out, Josh.
patreon.com/TT Journeys. Well done. Yeah, there you go.
I knew Josh would have it correct, and I wasn't positive I would.
Well, I'll throw this one out. So a link to your Patreon will be in the description below, and I will keep mentioning it because I want people to scroll down and support your show. But you've released some supplements, some books, some supplements out on the DM Guild. Have you got anything coming up for someone to sort of get behind and really sort of back you for new content?
Yes.
Josh, looks like one of you's jumping at the bit.
Yeah,
I got this one, I think.
Jump in there, Lewanika.
Wait,
you didn't roll initiative. What's the matter with you? Sorry, go ahead.
We are extremely excited about our current project, which is live right now at the time of this recording on Kickstarter. It is a multiverse of subclasses, 12 unique original subclasses that our team has created that can be used anywhere in the 5e multiverse. So like it doesn't matter if you're playing in your own worlds, if you're playing in the campaign world of the Boiling Seas, which is a homebrew campaign that Glen created, or you're playing Faerun, or even if you're doing your own homebrew version of Greyhawk, all of these subclasses work. They come in 4 groups that are themed. They're the Shadow Dwellers, come from a dark realm where shadows and darkness and secrets abound. There are the Outlanders, people from the fringes of society, the outlands, the way out places, and their strange and mysterious ways. There's, again, as I mentioned, the Boiling Seas, 3 subclasses from that area, and finally,
Nautically themed.
Yeah, nautically themed. There works great with things like Salt Marsh, any pirate-based campaigns, and that you're handling. And lastly, and not least, but certainly is the Metropolitans, an underserved environment in the tabletop RPG space, at least as far as 5e is concerned, which is that urban environment, but not necessarily the highfalutin nobility sections of this. This is the city. This is where the grit meets the grime in the back alleys. This is where the common people flow, and these are the heroes, or in some cases, the villains that they encounter.
Yeah.
And we're really excited about that project. Live on Kickstarter, got funded in 72 hours. We've already hit our first stretch goal. We are moments/days away from hitting our second stretch goal. A lot of activity over the last few days, which has been very fun. So we're not only doing the subclasses, but the first stretch goal was we're adding backgrounds and feats. The second subclass, or the second stretch goal, is going to be magic and mundane items. So that's coming. We have a third stretch goal, which is going to be NPCs, if I'm correct, Josh.
Correct. Yep.
NPCs.
After that's NPCs. Yeah.
So we'll have those to go along with, and then our big stretch goal that follows that is going to be adventures. And then we have a far outreach stretch goal, which I am confident this community can help us get to. They get behind us, visit, check us out, and back the project. We've got maps that will also be commissioned for this as well. So you'll have encounter maps and adventure maps that we'll be able to work with. Who knows? We may even get Glen to work with our map maker to do a map of the Boiling Seas, so we can have something really nice. So you can have that to go with those subclasses.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, it sounds like, especially where the sort of the dirt meets the grime, I think was how you put it. The sort of blue collar coveralls and cover ups, maybe down in the streets and the alleyways. Something, definitely great to serve. I'm a big fan of Eberron, and that's sort of tiered city with lots of potential to take a supplement such as yours and really work it into that setting for sure.
Yeah, I mean, one of the subclasses in that set was the Paladin Oath of Loyalty, and the Oath of Loyalty is sort of you know, Paladin so often in D&D is kind of like the man, right? Like they're the one that, like, they're leading the party, they've got the cause, everything like that. That's not who the Oath of Loyalty is. The Oath of Loyalty is the right hand person, the one that is tasked with getting things done and getting things done in a way that doesn't get dirt on the person that's telling them what to do, right? So that's it's very much kind of a go-getter, kind of a work within the system, or color just outside the lines, sort of subclass. So yeah,
I like to think of that as potentially your consigliere,
exactly. Yeah,
to the boss. And
yep,
if you're building a crew that fills that niche, maybe they're not quite the super good guys, but they're kind of in that. I can really see something like that working in Dragon Heist.
yep,
Work, and then you build in some of the Eberron Patreon systems, working
yep,
for one of the houses against one of the other houses. There's a
yep.
lot of narrative juice there.
Any of the metropolitan classes could mesh so well into Dragon Heist.
Yeah.
Or any other city or urban adventure, just based on their design. But you mentioned Dragon Heist. So.
Yeah, another great example of a city-based adventure plot sourcebook. We'll go with sourcebook. Speaking of content creation, we'll move slightly onto your side of the fence, the podcast interviewing content creators.
Yeah.
How has that been? What is that? How did you first get some of the any of the amazing guests you've had, and what has it been like chatting with these sort of pillars, some of them, of our community?
Yeah, I mean, I'll hop on this one. So when Lewanika gave the awesome history of our podcast, what he glossed over was that for the first probably 2 or 3 months that we were doing the podcast, it was just the two of us, and then we realized that both of us sort of yammering at each other was less exciting. I mean, we needed to bring in a third voice, and that's where Glen came in, and he really offered this fantastic moderating influence in the show, and really, the show would be so much lesser kind of without that voice. And then
Thanks, Josh.
it wasn't long after that, of course, yeah. It wasn't long after that we realized that that there were people out there that wanted to come on our show to talk about their awesome thing, right? And I think I'm stalling a little bit because I'm actually scrolling back through our history here. And so just a real quick pop question, Glenn and Lewanika, do you remember who our first interview was?
I want to say it was Danilo or
It was
Zugard. I'm
Danilo.
going to go with Danilo.
Yeah,
I
it was
think it was
Danilo from
Danilo, but I
Thinking
don't think
Critically,
I was
absolutely,
in
which is
that
another
episode.
fantastic UK-based podcast.
Great
Right?
person, yeah, great.
Oh, such a great person. I mean, we've had him at our AP table. We've had him.
Yeah, he played in Against the Dark Master with us. That was
anytime.
a good time.
But yeah, really. So we started just bringing people in because they asked, or we were asking them just like, hey, we just wanted to go ahead and sit down and chat for an hour about the cool thing that you're doing. And really, as we did it more and more, we realized that, man, talking to awesome people about the awesome thing that they're doing in our space is amazing, and it is so fulfilling, and it is probably the greatest gift that this podcast has given me, right? I won't speak for the other two, but certainly for me, it's that ability to go ahead and sit down and just have a conversation with these awesome people. I mean, you said it yourself, Adam. Some of the people that we have had the luck and the grace to go ahead and be able to talk to has been so much fun. Like when we spoke with James Introcaso, Hannah Rose, Sadie Lowry, when we real early when we were talking about other, man, I'm trying to remember what was his name? The guy from Burned Lands.
Flag, Travis Flag.
Travis Legg, thank you. Yeah. So, like talking to Travis Legg about other like amazing game creators who, and we've kind of pivoted that into our actual play content now. Lewanika, you mentioned the RPG Academy. One thing that we kind of borrowed from their format was, if we're going to be bringing in awesome game creators who want to come in and talk about their awesome thing, we can actually do that one step further and have them start running games for us in their awesome thing, right? So like when we pulled in the folks from Even Footing Games, and then they ran the AP of their game Babies and Broadswords, or when we pulled in the folks from Against the Dark Master for that amazing interview with them, which was an amazingly good time. You talk about interviews that could have stretched on for hours. We could have talked to them forever, and then to go ahead and be able to sit down and have them run a game session for us in their system was just absolutely incredible. So man, I wish I knew exactly kind of how we got so lucky and how we got so blessed, but it has just been an absolute ride that I love. I'm absolutely loving the interview content that we're able to go ahead and put out there.
Yeah, and all of our guests are fantastic too. I mean, we've got the big names, but even the smaller names and the new indie creators that are putting things out that we've spoken to that nobody's really heard that much of yet. Yeah. Everyone's been fantastic. That's what's so great about the community, and we're really learning that all you got to do is ask, and most people want to chat.
Talking to awesome people about their awesome thing is just amazing.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lewanika.
I can say that we interviewed Beth the Bard. Newt is her handle. Mama Newt.
Lucky Newt Games.
Lucky Newt
Laura,
Games.
Lucky Newt Games, yeah.
And Navi.
Navi from Quarter Blades, yeah.
Yeah. When we interviewed those three creators, that was one of the most inspirational interviews we had, because at that point we had done some of our content creation. We had done our first couple of projects, and there are things that we're looking at or considering. And when you get that kind of imposter syndrome feelings in the back of your mind, and you're not sure that this is the right thing to do. And I remember the question I asked Beth the Bard. I'm like, how did you just, what got you past that to do that? She was, I just did the thing. And I'm like,
you asked about professional DMing. Yeah. Like, how do you become a professional DM?
Yeah, professional DMing. So I just asked people if they wanted to pay for it. And
it's like, well, I run games and I charge people.
Her personal strength is so inspirational to me, because I consider myself a relatively confident person, yet I didn't make the connection that all you had to do was just go ask and do the thing. Like, it didn't seem that simple to me. Like, I thought there had to be a complex process, carry the the square root of y, the hypotenuse of somebody else's isosceles triangle to get to that end. But at the end of the day, it was just do the damn thing.
Yeah, your expression when she answered you with "start charging for your sessions" was priceless.
That was it. Like, well, how do you get, how do you become a professional DM? Just start charging for your sessions. That was the answer. And it sounds so strange that an answer that simple, that direct, could be so cataclysmic in its seismic shift in my thought process. But that's exactly what it was. It moved me in a way that, honestly, a lot of our interviews moved me in various ways. That was probably the single answer that moved me the most that we've done in 2.5 years of this podcast.
Yeah.
So moving from the profound, I guess, to inspiration and interpretation. So you've chatted with sort of mainstream and indie content creators, other podcasts you've been inspired. RPG Academy was one of them you mentioned. What is it you've taken from these other places that's helped influence and sort of refine your content? Because you have actual plays mentioned, and we'll touch on again in a bit, these amazing interviews you guys do, plus the reviews, plus all this other stuff, and you've still got time for putting things out on Kickstarter and all that. So having all of these sort of outside influences, what have you taken and refined into your own process the most, I guess? That's
I would
Eddie
say,
and all of you.
I'll jump in first real quick because they'll talk longer than me.
That's what we do.
I would say that for me, the biggest thing that all of the work we've done has impacted, the biggest way that it's impacted our podcast as a whole, is how much we embrace collaboration now. Not that we didn't in the beginning, but like so much so now that we and we've evolved a couple of our own things. We've borrowed, and Josh is going to talk about RPG Academy, so I won't jump into that too much because that's a big inspiration behind the show. And Lewanika's got a couple too. But the having other people run their show, the game for us, AP style, and then we get to be the players that we did take from RPG Academy. Combined with our regular APs and a lot of that collaboration, I think where it's really helped make us a unique platform out there, I think where it's really helped us find our niche is how much it's created a relationship with other podcasters and creators that we regularly bring onto our show to collaborate with and effectively double up on audience exposure. As we move forward. So like as an example, our class warfare, I think, is our probably our most unique AP format episodes, where we take a class that we've been reviewing and we each roll up a different subclass from it, and we roll a party of all that. All wizards did not perform well, just so you know.
Did not know.
In the first session, the owl bear ate well. We got down all of the bad guys but the owl bear, but the owl bear ate well that day. But then we started bringing other people into that. So like we've brought in Scald from Awfully Queer Heroes and had her be part of it, either running the session or playing one of the characters. Or when we bring Mike or from 19 Hits the Dragon or Dads with Nerdy Ambition, Steve Pugh, onto the show to work in the actual plays with us. Or anyone that we've interviewed before, like yourself at some point when you're likely to get an invite to come play in a session. I think that piece, the collaborative piece of how the community is open and accepting of each other and everybody and is willing to work with each other, has had the most influence in the way that we've shaped the show as we've gone, because it's really opened up from our original format of we're going to do episodes about these things and just talk about them, to having so many conversations with other people and creating so many connections. So there's my ramble.
Not a ramble at all, Ben. Thank you.
Yeah, I will keep my kind of addition to that brief, because honestly, Glenn, I think that you nailed exactly what we get from this, right? I think that there is sometimes the fear that if you're doing a podcast, that it is that you're doing a podcast for yourself, right? You're doing a podcast to go ahead and hear yourself talk, or you're hearing a podcast because you want to sell something or anything like that. And for us, what I have found over the last, because we've been on the air for just about 2 years now, and what I have found is kind of what Glenn said and what I was alluding to earlier, is just how rewarding it is to have other people come and talk about their awesome thing, because the world of the TTRPG space is so myriad and so varied, and there are so many like little niches here and there, little pockets of people doing awesome things with Powered by the Apocalypse or whatever. Like, like when we were able to bring on the creators, there was a Kickstarter not long ago for a Powered by the Apocalypse build based on the Faith No More album, The Real Thing. And I saw this on Kickstarter way before it launched. And like the moment that I saw it, I was like, oh yes, we need to have them on the show, because I want to talk to them about this. I want to know, and we want to run this game. Like if they will run this game for us, like we want to play this
Fantastic.
game. And it was just as stinking amazing as you would think it was. Holy crap, that game is good. Yeah, more so. Yeah, and now like Ward and Piercy have become friends. Like we talk to them all the time. Like we're talking to Ward about playtesting our own stuff and everything like that. Which by the way, I don't know if I've told you two, but he's in, so that's
I was
good.
Say, is he coming? Is he going to come?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, totally.
Nice.
So it's like,
do we have any playtest spots left?
Oh boy, that's a good. I honestly have to do the schedule. I don't know yet.
Okay.
It's a good question.
I was just wondering, because there's somebody handy that we could invite if we chose.
Yeah, probably. I'm sure probably. But anyway, all that to go ahead and say that, like, again, like bringing other people on is so rewarding. Like it's like, as much fun as I have talking to these two about, about classes or about books or whatever like that, I think our best shows are when we get to go ahead and bring in awesome people. So go ahead, Lewanika.
I was going to just second all of that and say we've also had some really great comments. I know very early on, we used to have a segment that we did called Side Quest, where we talked about genre television shows, the Marvel movies, and Shadow and Bone, and
Star
things
Wars,
like that. Star Wars, Mandalorian.
Anywhere we got inspiration.
where we got our inspiration from. And one of our very early interviews was with, at the time they were called the Marvelous Madams. Now they're the Madams. Originally they focused just on Marvel stuff, but now they do movies. And an amazing pair of broadcasters. Extremely, extremely well thought out discussions. And I remember
Yes,
when
they're very sharp.
I remember when after our first interview with them, either we appeared there or they appeared on our show. I don't remember. I can't remember which way it went, but I remember that Madam Chris had made the comment that she felt that we were allies in the cause of supporting women in the community at large, not just
Amazing.
tabletop gaming, but
Yeah.
the community at large. And I remember saying that was one of my most proud moments ever.
Yeah, that's big
Uh,
accolades.
my
Hugely proud.
mother, who passed a few years ago, who marched in the 70s and did all the things, would be so proud to hear that her son, her baby boy with his little cherub face, is still considered an ally to that cause. Yeah, it's not a cherub face anymore, and I'm not a baby boy by any
You
means,
still got the cheeks.
but that was a very, very proud moment for me. And we maintained friendships with that podcast, even though we don't do that segment anymore. We've been on
Right.
the show a couple times now, and
Yeah.
We should find a reason to bring them back, though. We haven't talked to them in a little
yeah,
bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I chat with them through Twitter all the time, and
Well, I meant on the show.
and
Yeah.
they've
On the show.
got
Yeah.
they've got some really big things happening, and it but the fact that they recognize who we are internally and we're willing to talk about that made me very proud of our work. And yeah, and that's all about building that community, strengthening that community,
Right.
supporting this community.
And
Um,
trying to be ambassadors to it,
yeah,
and try to help shepherd inclusivity, and
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
gatekeeping and roadblocking people.
yeah,
Mm.
because I make the comment that it frustrated me when my wife and my daughter would go to a game store to get something for me, and they felt odd about that, the looks and the such like that. So I want to promote anybody who's not doing that, anybody who's going to be positive. Like, yes, women come sit at my table, but not because I'm going to leer at you, but because you're a valued person that
Yeah.
deserves and enjoys the right to play a game or to be in a space without feeling threatened.
Mm.
That's something that I like to be able to celebrate, and I'm proud that I get to say that. And I don't have any fear in saying that.
Mm. Oh, that's incredible. I think is the most simplistic and yet full way of describing everything you said. That it is and what you do as a trio is astounding. Your output, and clearly the future is, stealing an old advertising slogan, the future is bright with respect to your table. There is, there's a waypoint on the horizon you're aiming for. With respect to the future, are there things coming up that you're either individually or as a group looking forward to within the TTRPG community, new releases and things like that you're looking forward to review? What's next on the show as well as personal?
I mean, we're all really looking forward to the myriad of Dragonlance content that's coming out. We're going to be talking about both the novels, the initial novel and the rule supplement that comes out at the end of the year. So I know that's going to be huge. And honestly, the stuff that's coming out in 2023 for Wizards,
In 2024.
we're
Yeah.
well certainly 2024 with the big kind of revolution that's happening, but just the slate of supplements that are coming out in 2023, very intrigued to kind of see what's coming out on that front. And then like even kind of outside of the juggernaut that is Wizards of the Coast, I know I am particularly interested to go ahead and take a look at the new One Ring RPG that's coming out by Free League. I'm really looking forward to that one. Yeah, that's a big one that I'm really looking forward to. So and I back a bazillion Kickstarters, and so I'm looking forward. We're in the middle of Zine Quest 4 right now, and so I'm looking forward to the number of zines that are going to be coming into my mailbox in the next few months here. So
Nice. Either of the two remaining awesome cast members, what are you guys looking forward to?
So I'm looking forward to the release of a commission project that we worked on for another for another publisher, Splinterverse Media. We did a
Yeah.
thing. Some NDAs are still in place, so there's not much we can say about it.
Except that it's a Dragonlance book.
Yeah,
It is Dragonlance book, yeah.
yeah, we
That's
can say that.
and we worked on the
So,
project.
so we worked on a project already. That's coming out. I'm looking forward to that being in the hands of players all over, so they can get a chance to kind of get a version and get the ability to kind of see what we do in that space. And
And
I'm
it was a
looking.
real experience learning to work with another company
Yep.
over publication. It was really interesting, Sarah.
Building professional credits, and again, this goes back to that big interview we had with Beth and Lucky Newt and Navi, which is build collaborations. I think it was Navi who said that, or maybe it was Sadie Lowry who said that. Might have been Hannah, but one of the interviews that we did, and we did those interviews
I'm
pretty
pretty
close
sure
to
it was
back to back.
definitely Sadie
Yeah, but I
in
believe,
our first interview with.
yeah, I think it was Sadie. Now that you mentioned that,
I
but
think
I remember
wrong.
she said, if you want to get into this on a professional level, you just have to start doing collaborations. Start small,
Mhm.
keep doing collaborations with people. People will get to know your work. They'll get to know your work ethic, and then you'll get bigger and bigger projects.
And didn't she name drop us like 3 people right after we interviewed her too, and help set us up with them?
Nice.
Totally.
So,
I mean, that's how
I
we
mean,
that's how we got the interview with James Introcaso. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Hannah Rose,
Hannah
I
basically
believe.
went to him and said, "Hey, go on
Or
this
was it
guy's
Hannah
show."
Yeah,
first?
yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
it was
I
Hannah.
think Hannah was first, and then we
It was
got
Hannah first, not Sadie.
Then
I
Sadie.
apologize.
Yeah.
But,
Hannah helped us score Sadie too. I had them backwards. Apologies, ladies. My bad.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm looking forward to where that takes us. I know it's
Yeah.
a quality thing that we wrote. It's going to be a quality project. Working with Splinterverse, I mean, we've reviewed their books before, love their work, and
Yeah.
I am very confident that it'll be well received. And I look forward to future collaborations. So if there are other publishers out there who are looking for content, Tabletop Journeys, we do good work. And we would love to work on other projects. We do work on our own, but we certainly are not opposed to joining in and being part of a good team.
Nice. Glenn, I guess that leaves you and your ideas, aspirations, and sort of things to look for in the future.
So they've covered a lot of them. Some of my things that I'm looking forward to are, as an example, just for a very specific example, Lewanika running the Star Trek for the new Star Trek game system.
Yes.
I am looking forward very much to the final announcement of Planescape coming next year,
Yeah.
especially since during the writing of Traveler's Guide to the Multiverse, I did a lot of Planescape research and really kind of lost myself in the rabbit hole that is Sigil City of Doors for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really interested in seeing what they do for a 5e release of that. But some of my favorite stuff that's up and coming is stuff that we're working on, I'm going to be honest. Because we've got our current Kickstarter that's out there right now. With Dragonlance, we'll also have at least a small Dragonlance supplement coming to DM's Guild with 3 subclasses in it that originally were part of this project, but when we moved to Kickstarter, we would have had to water them down too much.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you can't say Dragonlance or any of the Dragonlance things off of DM's Guild.
Yeah.
And it would have done them a disservice. It would have made them crap. So we pulled them and created 3 new ones to go in this one, but that's still going to come out as a DM's Guild product. And I'm really proud of the work we've put into those. And I want to see how they're received. And there is a title, something along the lines of Factions of the Multiverse, kicking around our current design floor that I'm hoping that we launch into soon.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really getting into the content creation.
Yeah, I think that might mesh well with like a series of like heist themed missions. If there's ever a supplement that came out with like heist themed missions, those factions factions could work well.
That seems primed for a
like spring.
A 2023 spring Kickstarter project.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there is. I'm just
allegedly or hypothetically.
Allegedly. Well, the Wizards site says there's some heist-based things coming in the winter of
there we go.
23. So you know, things to tie nicely, and then there's your other supplements to tie in for that urban based adventure, and so there's. Scroll down, follow the link, and support these guys over at DM's Guild, Kickstarter, and all those sort of good places. Wow. I mean, you guys not only do it all, but you succeed and excel at everything you put your minds to. And I doff the cap that I'm not wearing, but you'll just have to roll with me here. Doff the cap that, to you, each of you, both for your individual efforts and as a team. It's all
thank you.
inspiring.
Yeah.
Thank you so
we're
much,
too
Adam.
stubborn to fail. Yeah.
That is great praise.
Yeah.
And that's very true.
Yeah, there's a trio of folks who I mean, we've all seen Monty Python, right? It's only a flesh wound. That is literally our mantra. Like we are.
Yeah. I mean, if we have to, we'll be. Come back here! I'll bite your ankles off.
Yeah, that nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Also true.
Our chief weapons are fear and surprise, and no.
And we also have very supportive families. Let's be honest too. That like
That's true.
that
My wife
really
is
that
fantastic.
support
Thank you
our
so much,
craziness here a
Trish.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. Shout out to our wives because they endure and put up with a great deal to afford us the
Persevere, yeah.
opportunity
She
to
even
be
encourages me.
I mean, that's a quick question and potentially maybe a little bit personal, so feel free to not answer it. But do you get, so between podcasting, content creation, actual plays, editing, and all the myriad of other things you do you get
3 or 4 other
time?
games we play just for fun? Yeah.
Do you get downtime? Do you get time for you in that respect? Respect, do each of you get a bit of time to sort of collect or come down from this high and all that sort of stuff?
Trish and I are deliberately building another life together around an IP that we're creating called Ain't Life a Trip, and it may or may not branch into Second Childhood. So we do a lot of that to keep time together. But for myself, content creation fits nicely into my downtime because I was creating anyway, and I love it.
Yeah,
that's my answer, short and sweet.
Yeah, I mean the other thing is too is that, we alluded to this when we talked about scheduling and how to go ahead and schedule interviews and everything like that. At the end of the day, we firmly believe in downtime, not just kind of like using the podcast as like our downtime from our professional lives, because we all everything like that too, but also downtime from the podcast, right? And so like we take breaks throughout the year, and but we kind of schedule it in such a way that we try to make it seamless, right? We have successfully published every week for the last 2 years, at least 2 episodes a week, and we don't plan on stopping that. The one kind of asterisk, I guess, on that was last summer when we took our break, because we took our break kind of like as a last minute thing and couldn't like build up the episodes in advance, and so we replayed a bunch of appearances that we'd had on other podcasts and stuff like that throughout that time. But there was still content coming out, and it was content that our audience hadn't necessarily heard, so we give ourselves a pass on that front. But like this year, we took the month of July off, and again, it's about creative scheduling. It's about making sure that everything is kind of queued up ahead of time, that it's edited, it's in place, and everything like that, and then we can go ahead and get some time away from the microphone and kind of rejuvenate those batteries. Because we keep a crazy pace, and getting that time away is really, really important to being able to turn out the kind of product that we're putting out. So
yeah, and to the last summer, even though one of our 2 episodes a week was replays of interviews and appearances on other shows, so they were new for our show entirely, but they were previously run in other avenues. We still had our actual plays, which were fresh to our channel in that same week. So there was actually and that was 4 weeks total. So that was the only time we've really had to do that. In all other cases, we have recorded in a way that allows us to have new shows all the time. So even when we switch over seasons or whatever, there's no breaking in continuity. That is less of a requirement and more of an effort that we make, because we know there are people who have had our back throughout this process, and that's our way of giving back to them. So they have something, if people have taken the time, whether they be patrons or just regular listeners, to invest time and in some cases money in this show, we're going to continue to produce the best quality product we can, the best quality show we can, and something that's going to be entertaining, entertaining always, thought-provoking as often as we can, dang funny when we can manage, and hopefully not littered with too many dad jokes, but Unfortunately, most of our jokes are
Good
dad
luck with
jokes.
that. Yeah.
We're all
Um,
dads. What do you want?
Yeah, that's what you
That's
get from
fair.
us. But the idea is to keep that rolling, and I think we do a pretty good job of that. Because we have, in my opinion, the best team in podcasting between the three of us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
we all pick up where we need to pick up to make things happen.
Nothing
And fingers
personal. Adam.
crossed
That's
that
No,
everything
no,
continues
no,
to
no,
go as
no.
swimmly as it has.
I'm jealous of the teamwork. Jealous of the team. I'll tell you this. I mean, we have to steal from your own show, I guess. We have been on quite a journey during this interview. Pun definitely intended, because we
Excellent.
have gone through all of your, or as far as I'm aware, unless you want to throw anything in here at the end, gone through the great content you put out, who you've spoken to, what you're working on, what we can expect in the future, what you're excited about. So what I'd like one of you, and I'll let you fight over it between the various screens on the computer, is one of you remind everybody where we can find you and where we can go to support you, please.
Josh?
That's right. Okay, so the Tabletop Journeys podcast can be found at our website, www.ttjourneys.com. And as well, if you search for Tabletop Journeys wherever you listen to podcasts, you should be able to find our show. If you can't find it there, please look us up on Twitter at ttjourneys. You can also join our Facebook group, which is also at ttjourneys, or email the show at podcast@ttjourneys.com. And lastly, if you want to get in on the Kickstarter that we mentioned earlier, there's a real easy way to get there. You can go to www.ttjourneys.com/Kickstarter.
Nice. Links will be down in the description below this podcast. Please scroll down, support the show, and to all of you, because you are such a force, an entity, a trinity. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a real pleasure to get into to learn about your creative processes, your input and influences, and everything you're looking forward to. I'd love to get you back on the show for future interviews for your own releases or your own show, or even for one shots if you guys would be interested.
Absolutely. We'd love to be back.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Adam. And thank you to all of your listeners out there for, putting up with these three old guys for an afternoon.
Yeah. Thank you for letting us come into your earbuds, your car radios, and wherever you listen to the podcast. We appreciate the invite.
Well, thank you so much, guys. I look forward to speaking to you again in the future.
Thank you for listening. If you'd like to learn more about the show, then go to www.snydersreturn.squarespace.com. Alternatively, you can find us over on Twitter @ReturnSnyder. We have a Linktree link in the description of this episode. And if you want to support us, come and join us over on Patreon. And we also have a Discord server. Please leave us a review, because we'd love to learn how to improve the channel and provide better content out for those who are listening. Until we speak again, thank you.